All right, folks, my apologies for running late here. We are going to get this session rocking and rolling. Appreciate everyone for stopping by, taking the time. We absolutely lit it up today with this morning's video. I'm going to address that one real quickly, and then we're going to talk more about it at the end of this episode with additional information that I've compiled, and I'm going to get straight to that. But right away, guys, you already know the deal. Everything can be found on my website, zachrector.com. I appreciate all your support. We have so much momentum behind our community right now, and we are going to spearhead this fight right on the front lines with everybody else that's fighting that good fight, and that includes you guys out in the audience. I appreciate you so much. Let's go. So we're going to be talking about it. Insiders are selling, and smart money is selling. I'm going to show you guys those data points combined with the current events that we're looking at. It's really incredible what's happening on the world stage. We're going to put all this together, looking at the markets, the true economic data, and then we're going to get into this XRP situation. This story just continues to get more and more interesting. You know, just when you think it's done, you're not going to find any more information, you find a document like I just came across. Now, I believe that I actually had seen this a while back. For some reason, I think I overlooked it, and it came circulating here once again, and I'm going to be honest, I wanted to address this. The reason why I shared this information about Ripple's communications with the market maker, letting XRP breathe, and you guys probably already saw my video earlier today. What happened after that email got sent out was XRP went from 67 cents to $3.30, all-time high. The reason why I shared the content with you guys, and I took some time to compile everything and prepare myself, because I wanted to deliver a message that could share, my take, my truth in regard to what we found. And I think that it would have been, just not the right thing to do to not address it. As someone who puts out content about XRP every single day, for me to come and have that come across my desk and to not address it to my community, I feel like would have been doing you guys a disservice. So that's why I did it. And then the second reason why is because we know that the fudsters, the haters, are going to try to put their spin on it, and it's only a matter of time before they find it. They're not as good at the research, so it takes them some time, but eventually they'd come around, they'd find it, and they'd stir it up. And this is why I wanted to get in front of that. This is what I've continued to try to do for the past 3 years, is to cut through the BS, the lies, the misinformation and disinformation about XRP. And then obviously I take the opportunity to comment on everything else taking place as far as current events in our economy as well. But I felt like it would have been a disservice to you guys to not cover it. I wanted to do so in an appropriate setting. It's in like I covered in the video, and I'm going to explain later in this episode here, this is not a moment of concern for me at all. Ripple has a big bag of XRP. They treat it as a reserve currency. I know that there's the Twitter police and the thought police out here that want to, tell us that we're not allowed to call it a reserve currency, even though Ripple called it one. Even though they treat it like one. We're not allowed to identify our XRP as a world reserve currency. That's okay. All that I'm pointing out here is that it has to be done in this way with Ripple to distribute the XRP. We want the supply to be decentralized. We know that the network is decentralized, but we do want the supply to eventually be, kind of spread out. But I do have to, commend Ripple. I feel like they've been very responsible. And it's unfortunate that I have to address this, but let me be very clear, because I saw this comment as well. No, nobody from Ripple is paying me. Nobody is is directing me. Nobody is telling me to try to put a positive spin on this. I see a lot of people that are trying to say that this is bad. No matter, whether we think this is, good or not, this is manipulation. It's impossible to have this much of an asset and not be able to move price. But they've done their selling and their buying back of XRP in a responsible way to distribute XRP with having as little impact on XRP price as possible. The responsible thing to do when you are managing the treasury of a world reserve digital currency. Compare that to our treasury, which is issuing 10 trillion worth of bonds this year. Perspective. It matters. And so people want to hate, they want to spin this up as FUD. And even those, that are frustrated about price, you want to be rich today. You want XRP to go to $5. You want to let XRP breathe today. There's a bigger plan at work. for better or for worse. And for me, I think that you're talking tremendous upside when they let this thing breathe again. When it's time to shine, this thing is going to steal the show. Absolutely. And I'm not here to give anybody financial advice. It's just I come from an effort of providing full transparency on how I run my businesses, on how I invest, and how I see these current events, decoding the data and how it plays out. That's all I'm trying to do here. So I wanted to address that, and I did find some more information on that. So I'm going to be covering that towards the end of this episode, but let's get right on into it. We have so much to cover, so much taking place. I already ran a Twitter space for 3 hours earlier today. There is no shortage of content coming out here, and I'm trying to make sure that we stay with the quality as well. What matters most? How does it impact us? Let's take effective action. How is your program working out? Let me know in the comments down below, and let's get this party started. I'm going to take a sip of my adult beverage. God bless you. Let's go. XRP back up to 57 cents. Right now we're at 57.5, and this thing is pushing towards that 58 cent level. Love to see it. For Bitcoin, we're getting a little bit of stability here above 52,000. So it's going to be interesting to watch where we go from here. I'm still not feeling, I don't got my moon suit on yet, but I'm ready to go for a little ride. It's kind of fun. 2,850 for your Ethereum, kind of fun, kind of a good time. Flare kind of been chopping sideways here in this range, but still showing strength above 3 cents. Love to see it. A token that we recently covered, SHX, maintaining stability here in this range right above that 1 cent level. Interesting little project and deal there. And then another token that I had talked about how I picked up was this Say token right here. Interesting little deal there. Finally back up to a new all-time high for the Say token. Interesting little project. By the way, full disclosure, just because I have to, I did already sell off my profit on Say, and we made 30% gains on that trade. That was an interesting little deal, but I'm not going to be greedy in this market. And I'm playing, when I told you guys I picked up these coins, I'm chasing green candles and FOMOing in, it was momentum trades for me. So I did exit my position on Say, just in full transparency. I want to let you guys know. I update my Discord in real time. Every single trade that I make in real time, I go let the Discord know. Now, continuing on, we did have ourselves a juicy day for Mr. Intuitive. FBI informant who claimed that Mr. Joe was doing some deals. I'm going to not say the details, but you guys can see what I'm talking about, has been arrested. This FBI informant has been arrested and charged with making up the allegation. Wow. Getting a little interesting out here. Next data point. Robert Hur is making plans to publicly testify before the House Judiciary Committee next month about his report on Biden's handling of classified documents, which raise concerns about his memory. That's right. For those of you guys that missed it last week, the classified documents were mishandled. It is a problem, but they found that we are dealing with a man that's struggling to remember where he's at right now. Literally. That was their response. That was their defense on why they did not bring charges against Sleepy Creepy. Let's continue on, folks. It's truly incredible out here. Take a look at it. Into the economic data right here. You guys see it. 2 regional Fed factory gauges rebound in February. We're talking about the Philadelphia and the New York Empire State Index. What's interesting about these data points, though, is I feel like it highlights a sentiment, an optimistic sentiment that everything's going to be okay. Jerome Powell's going to cut rates. What's interesting, though, to note is that although they've gained 41 points, they're still negative. So you need to get to 0 to indicate improving conditions. We're still a long ways away from improving conditions, okay? This is what's interesting, and it highlights a sentiment, a confidence that is rising in the builders as well. We talk about the real estate reset. This is underway, folks. All part of the greatest transfer of wealth in world history. Are you going to get on the right side of the transfer? Builder confidence index rises to 5-month high on expectations. Once again, expectations. There's a difference between our expectations and our reality. We know that all too well with our XRP bag, don't we? The expectations that mortgage rates will drop in the coming months. Everybody wants Daddy Powell to ease up on us. Peter Schiff, U.S. retail sales plunged 0.8% in January, the biggest monthly drop since the lockdowns, 2020 lockdowns. Retail sales plunging, even as retail prices continue to rise. Meanwhile, import and export prices both spiked 0.8%. This confirms the economy is cooling down just as inflation is heating up. This is stagflation. Now, I saw someone comment, you have to be very clear about our terms, our definitions. You know, what do you define as a recession? What do you define as inflation heating up? The thing is that we saw inflation in CPI had been brought down to about 3.1, 3.2, popped up to 3.4, and then we saw it just drop down to 3.1 on a year-over-year basis. But you have to understand that we're talking about the Fed trying to achieve a 2% target. So what Peter Schiff is saying by inflation heating up is that inflation is bottoming out. And we saw that. It bottomed out at about 3.1 up to 3.4. So it did tick back up. It did technically heat back up. But then we just got a reading coming back down at 3.1. And I think that we can highlight the fact that in all of the earnings reports, these companies are saying they no longer have pricing power, i.e., the consumer is tapped out, running out of credit. They can't raise prices anymore. We saw prices just keep on being raised all through the last 2-3 years on services and products across the board. Some things went up, by 3 to 5%, 10%. Some things went up by 20 to 50% or more. The stuff that actually matters that they strip out of the CPI lie, that's the stuff that was really going up, and including shelter, which is still a struggle for most Americans. As we highlighted in the real estate data, the builders getting a little bit of confidence. Why? Because they're just listening to mainstream economic news. They're listening to a mainstream story. They're probably listening to the real estate bulls that are begging Daddy Powell for forgiveness. And please understand, although I break down the real estate reset in a way that might seem negative or bearish on real estate, that on the other side of the coin is the opportunity, especially for folks that are just new getting in, but then also for something to consider for folks that are already in real estate and considering becoming investors as well. This is not a participation trophy economy anymore. That's the point. Whether you're in the real estate asset class or whether you're in a service industry, whether you're in tech, whatever your deal is, it's being disrupted. And it's not participation trophy, 0% interest rates anymore. That's the point that we got to bring home. And once again, manufacturing up based off of a sentiment, based off of expectations, just like with the builders, just like with the markets. Do you see a trend? Do you see folks that are going to get caught off guard, caught with their pants down when the tide goes out? This is what we're looking at, is the Fed is going to have to keep rates higher for longer to fight that fight against inflation. I try to break down this economic data to make it simple for everyone to understand, because if you listen to the talking heads and then if you listen to the perma bulls, you'll be completely lost trying to decode this data. Talking head pundits that make everything rosy. We got rainbow sunglasses on. Everything's A-OK, feel warm and fuzzy inside. Bidenomics is fantastic. And then on the other side, we just have perma bulls, i.e., folks holding stocks, folks holding cryptos that they just want to see go up no matter what, which I'm in that same camp. I'd love to see it go up. Being aware of the market dynamics, though, is what separates our community apart. So when we were getting dips, we've been loading up. When we go for a ride, we've been prepared. We are perfectly positioned for this moment. Now, continuing on here, folks, into the economic data, we see that tomorrow, okay, we already got the CPI earlier this week. That came in hot. Core CPI came in at 3.9%. That's coming in hot. Remember, core is the one that they're trying to get to 2%, which, of course, now after Powell did the parade on 60 Minutes, he admitted that they're not really shooting for 2%, that they might actually cut rates before they get to 2%, i.e. move the goalpost. Move the target. They're not concerned about getting to 2% before they start cutting. Okay. They're still at 3.9%. They're a long ways away. Tomorrow, we get housing starts, building permits, and we are also going to get the producer price indexes, so the inflation rate for the producers. That's going to be critical. And we also have Fed Vice Chair for Supervision, Michael Barr, former board of advisors for Ripple, is going to be speaking as well. We also get consumer sentiment. We'll see how that's going. We got retail data, that's retail sales falling off. I can't imagine that the consumer sentiment's going to be too hot either. Okay. Now, this is where we're at with the economic data in the United States. Here's where we're at in the world. Current economies in recession. Peru, Japan just admitted it. Ireland, Estonia, Finland, Moldova, Denmark, Luxembourg, and UK just admitted it. So, believe it or not, some countries are still willing to admit, even by using their manipulated data that's hedonistically adjusted, to quote my good friend Rick Rule, who we just had on the show, even when you use that data, it still is a recession for this list of countries and many more, and it's a silent recession for us here in the United States. That's the situation at hand. As I titled this episode here today, we have smart money that is selling. I meant to say this at the very beginning because I didn't want people to be scared, but I was mostly talking about equities. But I do believe that we're seeing some crypto sell-offs too, some manipulation by the market maker magicians, what I call them in the crypto space. But we are seeing insiders selling. We're talking CEOs of companies and smart money that's offloading at a record that we haven't seen in a long time. Jeff Bezos right here selling another $2 billion worth of Amazon stock with a total of 6 billion Amazon shares sold over the last week. The last time that he sold was in 2021, very close to the top of the market, actually, funny enough. Probably just a coincidence, as we're printing all new all-time highs in the stocks right now. Who's selling off? Jeff. And not just Jeff, many other CEOs as well. What is Mark Zuckerberg doing? Selling off Facebook stock and building a bunker. You know, that's what they're doing, right? I did just see that Mark Zuckerberg responded to the Apple, Vision goggles, right? With Facebook's new product, they got, I forget what their goggles are called. What's the Facebook Meta goggles called? You guys can let me know in the comments down below. I did see Mark Zuckerberg did respond, and he actually looked like a normal person. He didn't look so much like a robot AI figure. He actually, it was a pretty good video, I thought. Pretty good marketing from Marky Mark and the team over there at Facebook. But the point is, guys, this is a level that we haven't seen in a long time. Look at this chart right here. Smart money is selling at record levels, a telling sign. Insiders are selling out of the market. This is corporate insider transactions ratio. We haven't seen a level of selling like this in a long time. I'd be interested to see this data zoomed out, because this only takes us back to the beginning of 2023. I'd like to see a little bit more. But as far as, this market ran up all of 2023, and now we're seeing and we warned about this actually. I warned about how a lot of selling pressure was going to be put off until the new year because markets were up. A lot of people were in profit, and they were going to sell off into the new year to take profits and push them off into the next tax year. So instead of tax loss harvesting before the end of the year, which is where you sell a position that's at a loss so that you can realize that against your, taxable income, talk to your tax advisor, please, your accountant professional. But this is tax loss harvesting when you're in the negative. But I was highlighting how this market was in the positive. This market was in profit big time. And so that we were going to see sell pressure off into the new year. The rally has extended for the stocks, but we are seeing insider selling that we haven't seen in the last year. So that's why I titled this episode Insider Selling. The other thing that concerns me is this Wall Street narrative. It began back in October with the fake news. Excuse me. The fake news came out in October. And what did they say? The spot Bitcoin ETF has been approved. Had it been approved? No, absolutely not. But they just lied about it. And it started to pump Bitcoin in the overall cryptocurrency space. Now, leading up into January, when the spot Bitcoin ETF actually did get approved, Bitcoin ran up to 49,000. We warned about how this was going to be a buy the rumor, sell the news event. Sell off down to 38,500. Okay. What we now saw and we warned about was another bull trap rally coming in. Thank God I'm not playing the futures market right now, because I would have probably shorted Bitcoin at the 43 to 45,000 range, which, if you recall, that's where I was warning we were going to. Little 43, 45. Well, Bitcoin does what it does best, and it made me eat my words, and it pumped all the way up here to 52,000. And what I worry about now is I still see a hyper Bitcoin bullish sentiment, especially from Wall Street and CNBC. I highlighted yesterday how Joe Kernan, CNBC interviewing Gary Gensler, how he kept on interrupting Gary Gensler to defend Bitcoin. Well, now here we are, we're seeing, this is Charles Payne from Fox Business saying that Bitcoin, quote, has been the best performing asset for 10 years since 2011. Quote, Bitcoin is on fire. I'm not going to play this clip, but we have Fox Business going bullish. We have CNBC going bullish. We have the whole narrative on Twitter. Obviously, it was founded on lies at the very beginning. They don't care. They have no shame. If it pumps Bitcoin, it pumps Bitcoin. They pump this whole thing up. And what I worry about right now is that we've hit that retracement level. You can pull this up on the charts. We've hit that retracement level. Huge shout to our good friend Miguel. He shared this chart in our Discord group yesterday. We've hit that retracement level just like we hit in 2019, 2020, right before the bottom got pulled out on us on March 2020. Are we going to get as big of a crash as we did in March 2020? Maybe not. But I just get uncomfortable when I see mainstream going so bullish, saying Bitcoin is on fire. It's been the best performing asset in the last 10 years, which it probably has done really well. But you have to understand and put it into context that there's a very small group of people that got into it 10 years ago and are still holding it today, or maximize their profits selling it off at 50,000, 60,000, right? So you got to put that into context as well. You can just throw it out there and say that it's the best performing asset if you select the time frame that matches that narrative. Many people didn't, sell the top absolutely perfectly. You have to understand that. But to my point, we have insiders at all of the major companies in this country that are offloading their shares. Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan sold his stock for the first time ever. He's never done this before. And then when it comes to the crypto narrative, they can run it up more violently than they can the traditional stock market, which is all the more reason for concern and to make sure that you understand what's happening, because this is where we get cleaned out time and time again. So we have Fox Business going bullish. We have everybody going bullish, but just look at the on-chain transactions. Someone cashed out 300 million worth of USDC. 300 million USDC burned at unknown wallet. That's somebody cashing out, folks. And I can prove that the market maker magicians are cashing out because we've highlighted how the Solana pump that we just had was part of making the FTX bankruptcy whole. The part of the reason why they're getting paid out is because they just sold billions of dollars worth of Solana and Bitcoin. I think ETH too, and they had some other cryptos as well. And we just saw that Genesis is now going to get permission to sell 1 billion Bitcoin. I'm not just trying to be sensational with my headlines. Obviously, I want to get people to watch my videos, so I try to make them exciting. But I back up my headlines, my titles, my clickbait is backed up with data on chain. In the courts, Genesis, you can dump 1 billion on the crypto bros. And to not cover that is to do a disservice to our audience. Just like the information that I uncovered earlier today that I shared with everyone. We'll talk more on that here in just a second. But now we see former FTX lawyers. This is an absolute joke. This timeline is undefeated. It is so perfect. You couldn't make a movie script better than this. And thankfully, we now have folks that are making a XRP Unleashed documentary to share the complete story that's still unfolding before us. You cannot make this crap up, folks. If you haven't already, please smash that video, smash the thumbs up on this video and share us out far and wide. I'll try to take some Q&A once we get through this. It's unbelievable. Former FTX lawyers Sullivan and Cromwell poised to be appointed Binance independent monitor. One of the most interesting, we'll call them. I wouldn't dare call them anything else. I wouldn't want to say anything negative about them. And, this is the Sullivan and Cromwell, right? That these former SEC officials have been doing the revolving door game, right? Some officials that we've talked about, right? Bill Hinman, Jay Clayton, you have Sullivan and Cromwell, you have Simpson Thacher. These are some of these law firms. And now we have Binance was to be delegated an independent monitor. Now, this is part of the $4 billion fine that Binance, as Janet Yellen called them, had to pay, and CZ had to step down, and Binance had to get an independent monitor. I thought it was going to be somebody from the government, which is Sullivan and Cromwell just an extension of the SEC and the government at this point? They might as well be, for all intents and purposes. And it's an absolute joke, right? We're going to have the lawyers that were in charge of FTX representing one of the biggest frauds and corruptions in the crypto space yet. We're going to have them be the independent monitor of Binance. Folks, this is the market maker magician the manipulation that I continue to talk about. They are blatant with it, right out in the open. They have no shame. And I'm sure that Sullivan and Cromwell would say that this is, we are crazy for questioning their ethics, their morals, and their values as a legal team. Now, speaking of legal, well, we uncovered the document. As I said at the beginning of this episode, I appreciate everyone for stopping by. By the way, thank you so much for joining me. Let's talk about this. Let XRP breathe. You guys probably already watched the video. I wanted to add a little bit more context to what I was talking about. This is the tweet that I shared. And as I said at the very beginning of this video, I felt like when this came across my desk, I would have been doing a disservice to my community that I work so hard for every day to not cover this. The other thing, although folks want to call me biased, and that's fine. People can call me biased. I hold a big bag of XRP, and I really believe in XRP and Ripple. I really do. Take it for what it's worth. I try to provide an unbiased opinion on the information before me because I'm not here to fill us up with hopium. I'm not here to put out hopium clickbait that's just meant to get everybody excited. I want to see fundamentals. I want to see adoption. Just as you guys see me when I look at other projects, what do I always ask? Who the hell that matters is actually using this token? The same is how I approach XRP and Ripple, believe it or not. I know many people won't believe that, but I try to be unbiased. I try to question my investment thesis because I want to make sure that I have conviction. I mean, the only reason why I still hold so much of this stuff despite the price action is because I have incredible conviction. And I'm not here to try to put a positive spin on this unless I really feel that it's a positive piece of news, if it's a positive data point, if it's a positive fact. And I'm here to tell you it's positive in my opinion because it's Ripple being responsible. Has it kept XRP down? Maybe. I would assume that there has been somewhat of a downward pressure effect on Ripple letting some of this XRP go circulating. But since basically around the lawsuit, and after the lawsuit, they changed it completely. They stopped programmatic sales, and they've only been selling it to on-demand liquidity institutional partners. Those are OTC transactions that the market does not see. So I would argue that after the lawsuit was filed and they stopped programmatic sales, that they've had no impact on price, essentially because we're talking about all institutional buyers. We're not talking about retail. We're not talking about transactions that go across the market, that go across the order books. You have to understand that. When Ripple goes to sell 100 million XRP, the order's not going across the order book. Retail cannot buy it. Retail does not have access to it. It is exclusively going to institutions. And this is what I want them to do. Are some people still going to be mad at Ripple? Are some people, you're never going to make everybody happy. In my opinion, they're being responsible. They have bots obviously programmed because this is what all of the traders in the world do that have any sort of sophistication with how they are trading digital assets, equities, commodities, whatever it may be. All of the largest hedge funds in the world have entire quant departments. They're they're soaking up some of the best talent when it comes to quants. That's how important this is. So is it a surprise that they have bots set up? No, we already knew that. This data point was not new as far as bots being used. This data point was not new as far as market makers being used. And it doesn't really surprise me that when they were selling programmatically, right? And they sent out a message that said, let XRP breathe, that bots were basically turned off, it appears. I'm just kind of trying to piece this together, read between the lines. It appears that some, selling pressure was let off. And this thing ripped from 60 cents to $3.30 in 2 weeks. Now, I asked the question, what happens next time they let XRP breathe? This is a direct quote, by the way, too. I'm not just pulling this out. You guys can see it right there. Let XRP breathe. This is with market maker GSR. Well, here's your chart. December 18th, 67 cents. That email goes out. Let XRP breathe. $3.31. And I wanted to remind everybody of what happened. Take a look at this one. This is CoinMarketCap historical snapshot on January 7th, 2018. This is just a couple weeks after that message was sent out. XRP went to 130 billion market cap. It surpassed Ethereum. It was the number 2 cryptocurrency digital asset. The circulating supply was only 38 billion at the time. Bitcoin went up to 276. So please understand that when our market cap was literally, I think this only equates to maybe about 500, 600 billion. At that time, XRP was able to get to the number 2 spot with 130 billion. This was in a market cap that was nowhere near a trillion. I think it was about 500 to 600 billion, if I'm not mistaken. And where does XRP go next when they decide to let XRP breathe? Now, what's interesting to note, though, is that they've stopped programmatic sales. So can they even do what I just highlighted? Because as I mentioned, they've only been selling to institutions after the lawsuit. Those sales are over the counter. They're not impacting market price at all. They're not impacting market price at all because the order never hits the order book. It's just that simple, guys. It's an OTC transaction. And so does Ripple have the ability now to let XRP breathe? I think that they do, just because based off the fact that they hold so much XRP, but they're not doing programmatic sales to exchanges anymore. But they are still letting some XRP go out. Some does get left in the exchanges, and that does probably lead to a little bit of downward pressure, I would assume, eventually. There's more XRP available to buy. There's more XRP, quote unquote, circulating. For me, when you see back there was less than 40 billion circulating. Right now we're at 50 billion circulating wherever we're at. I've always made the case that you have a much smaller amount of XRP that is actually circulating. I can tell you for a fact that my XRP is not circulating. And it's not going to be circulating until we're at a much higher price. And even when we do go to a much higher price, my XRP, only a very small percentage of it will be circulating, i.e. sold for US dollars. Only a very, very small amount. So about 90% of my bag is not circulating at all. A large portion of my bag, 75% plus, is probably never going to be circulating, period. Not even put into the AMMs. And so when I came across this, I had to cover it. But for me, as I've highlighted, Ripple has to use these market makers to distribute XRP effectively, and they have the biggest incentive to see XRP appreciate in price. I firmly believe that the plan, let me just, summarize the conspiracy theory for you guys. I think that the plan was, partially they did get stalled out by the SEC lawsuit. That did suppress them in the United States, but it also has been buying time for a new financial system to be rolled out that equates to an XRP at a much higher valuation, that equates to a gold and silver at a much higher valuation. And What Ripple has been doing has been getting XRP into the hands of people that are going to use it for utility problems that are valued in the trillions of dollars on a daily basis. So to solve as much as that, portions of that problem, I'm not even talking about solving the entire problem. I'm just saying to start to solve some of those problems, you start to see XRP move to a higher price. And when it's time to let this thing go, I think that they're going to let this thing go again. When I was researching this a little bit further, I came across this data point as well. This was shared in March of 2023. Ripple's market maker GSR teams up with Standard Custody. We literally just got Ripple acquiring Standard Custody. We still have to wait for the regulators to approve of this transaction. But such a key piece of infrastructure that Ripple has been able to acquire. And we find out that last year, GSR had already been teaming up with Standard Custody. Now, what were they trying to do? Well, let me get to this. Standard Custody and GSR have joined forces to introduce innovative escrow solutions in digital assets. Collaboration aims at reducing counterparty risk and further elevating standards for reliability and efficiency. This is why the Standard Custody acquisition is so massive. I cannot state this enough. They can now custody digital assets and others for their partners. These are partners that need to be able to hold US dollars. They need to be able to hold other currencies. They need to be able to hold digital assets as well. Now they have that ability. Now they have that offering. Combined with Medico, you have all the technology figured out. And with Standard Custody, what they really bought was a bank charter licensing in the New York from the New York Department of Financial Services, which is the epicenter of finance in the world, is New York, Wall Street, right? And the fact that they are winning this case in New York, right? And then now we see that they've acquired Standard Custody, which when you look on Google Maps, you will find that they are surrounded by all of the biggest banks in the world. If they want to go get some partners, if they want to go have some conversations, it's not a far walk. So the acquisition of Standard Custody adds to the list of 40 plus money transmitter licenses Ripple has acquired. And they're now set up to go live in the United States with these products that do use XRP. Ripple setting themselves up to be a one-stop shop for all digital asset liquidity, though. Not just for XRP, but that liquidity hub that they're looking to set up would have liquidity for other digital assets as well. And then I believe that with the acquisition of Standard Custody and Trust, you're talking about the ability to custody real-world assets. Think currency, think bonds, think equity, and the ability to then tokenize it on-chain. Just like we saw with Medico, which is partnering up with HSBC to offer HSBC institutional clients tokenized gold. Who's the custodian for that little program? Medico. Who's been acquired by? Who has Medico been acquired by? Ripple. Who is Standard Custody and Trust been acquired by now? Ripple. And the last feature I think that you really need on the XRP ledger to set the journey in motion to having the best liquidity on the XRP ledger is that AMM amendment. Once that gets passed, we're well on our way to building out some of the best liquidity in the world on the XRP ledger. Now that Ripple is putting this lawsuit behind them, they're going to be going live with partnerships in the United States. They've already made the announcement. And now with this acquisition, you have that custody part in as well. How do you get these guys on board when you have no custody solution for them? The regulations are still lacking, but now we have, someone who's been signed off in New York, which is one of the hardest, most difficult states to get approval in. That's why there's so few exchanges that actually offer to New York residents. This is all of the final pieces that are being put in place that reiterate my fundamental thesis on XRP that is incredibly bullish. And are some folks mad that Ripple said, let XRP breathe and they control it and they are manipulating it and this is bad? The judge already ruled that the programmatic sales were not an investment contract. When you have a commodity on your balance sheet and you are looking to sell it off, you use market makers to sell it. This is nothing new. This is the exact same thing that takes place in commodity markets around the world. Are there folks that are bigger players that can move markets? Yes, this is nothing new. And it doesn't mean that it's fraud. Remember, Ripple, none of the allegations, no part of the lawsuit was fraud. Now, the SEC, I'm surprised that they haven't tried to take it that far. They, are acting like they're doing us a favor and protecting investors. You guys saw Gary Gensler. He's still coming up onto CNBC and acting like he's the good guy. And he's the good guy for Goldman Sachs and the gang. That's who he is. And this is, as I've been saying, Ripple and XRP set up in a unique position that nobody else in the space is in. Period. That is a fact. That is not me overhyping or being oversensitized. Let me not try that word. Sensationalist. I'm not overhyping this. It just is true. They're set up in every state. We have clarity that XRP in and of itself is not a security. Now we have custody figured out. We have a bank charter. They also have that bank entity in Wyoming as well. They're set up in every state. They're ready to roll. CBDC's been piloted, been tested. They're ready to roll. Are the central banks ready to go? No. Are the central banks having a struggle these days? Yes. Is Ripple set up to be a lender of last resort for central banks around the world and for institutions around the world? Yes. As I'm saying, they're in a unique position that nobody else in the space is even close to. They can't even get to the boardroom. They can't get these guys to pick up the phone. This is the caliber of talent that is joining the team at Ripple. I highlighted how a former department head at the New York Department of Financial Services joined the board at Standard Custody back in 2022. So their board is, like the team from Ripple, absolutely stacked. The vice president, Standard Custody and Trust, former head of BNY Mellon, he was in charge, I forget what the percentage was, some 30-40% of all institutional digital assets he was helping to custody. He was the head of BNY Mellon for custody for digital assets. And they were responsible for over a third of all institutional digital assets worldwide. Vice President, Standard Custody and Trust. So not only is Ripple buying tech, not only is Ripple buying the green light in New York, Ripple's also buying an all-star team. Granted, this deal goes through. It's going to be very interesting to see if the regulators give them any issues on this one, if they let it go through. And obviously, we're still waiting for them to conclude. The SEC trying to rack up this fine as big as possible is their mission. But I want to remind everyone once again, remember, we've done it in the past. Who's to say that we can't do it again? And where does XRP go next time they let it breathe? That is XRP in that 2 spot, January 7th, 2018. Any comments, questions? How are we doing tonight? I see we managed to get this one done in 43 minutes. Drop those comments, questions down below. If you guys haven't already, please like this video and let me take some comments. Everything can be found on my website, ZachRector.com. You guys already know the deal there. The banks are in trouble, King Baker. That's a good point. Their balance sheets are ridiculous. They're terrible. They're huge problems. $100 billion problems. For Bank of America, they had $131 billion unrealized losses on their balance sheet. Excuse me. Don't worry, though. They've now brought that down to $98 billion. So they were able to bring, and this is, by the way, actually, this isn't all of their toxic debt that they have and negative equity loans that they hold. This is just on their bonds. Okay. So on their bonds, they had $131 billion of unrealized losses. They were able to get that down to $98 billion. Why? Because they've been able to use this these the reverse repo and these overnight treasury markets where they've been able to offload positions. The BTFP was another part of that as well, offloading and trading out these treasuries that they hold. And so Bank of America was able to bring that down from 131 to 98. They still have a nearly 100 billion unrealized loss just on their bonds, not including their real estate, not including any other businesses that they have given loans to that are failing, not including any consumer credit that they've given that's bad. Remember, credit cards in the United States just hit an all-time high of 1.13 trillion. One of the founders of Ripple works for Standard Trust. Yes, Arthur Brito is and David Schwartz were both behind PolySign, which was a subsidiary, Standard and Custody Trust was a subsidiary of PolySign. So yes, Arthur Brito, David Schwartz. The rabbit hole goes deep, folks. When the time is right, I just have no doubt that we're talking higher than a few bucks. Zach, if the institutional sales were OTC, can the bots suppress the price? How can the bots? The bots were being used for programmatic sales to exchanges, which is different than OTC to institutional partners. There's a difference there, right? Ripple stopped the programmatic sales when the lawsuit dropped. And I think a little bit before the lawsuit dropped, actually. Ripple stopped doing the programmatic sales to exchanges. Okay. So that's different from institutional sales that are over the counter. Okay. So it's like 100 million XRP being sold off the Coinbase. That's what the programmatic sales were versus 100 million XRP that's being sold to R3. For example, Tranglo, SBI, you name it, one of their ODL partners. XRP, appreciate you, brother. 5 spot towards ordering a flag flown for XRP and certificate signed by Elizabeth Warren. The Bitcoin bros were happy about that, weren't they? I guess that you can pay a donation or something to any senator, any politician, and you can basically just buy your ability to fly a flag, I guess is what the deal is. So I don't know if she was truly signing off on Bitcoin because she wanted to, or because somebody donated to. She probably needed the money. I don't know who gets the money. I don't know if it's the senator who gets the money or what the deal is, but I was looking into that a little bit further. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's like I said, this timeline is undefeated. You couldn't make a better script. How can bots sell something that they don't have? Well, at the bottom of that email, you could see they talked about another 20 million XRP being sent or something like that. So Ripple sells, basically gives their XRP to the market maker, and their market maker finds somebody on the other side. This is one of the things that GSR does. In the video that I dropped earlier today, I went to their website and I showed you guys everything that they offer. OTC sales, programmatic execution is the term that they call it. Escrow features. They've been doing it for 10 plus years. And as I highlighted last year, they started a partnership with Standard Trust and Company. Standard Custody and Trust is actually what they're called. But yeah. So when Ripple sells to an exchange, that is on the open market and affects price. Correct. That's actually going to be hitting the order books, right? So yeah. Zach, do you compare top 15 market cap versus top 15 trading volume? Do you get relevant data with coins correlated from the two lists? Yeah, I mean, for me, I guess I don't know how much really I put behind all that. I guess I use the market cap to kind of classify where a project is at. It gives you an idea of how quickly it can move. If it's a low market cap, it can move quickly. But that's for better or for worse. And so that's important to understand. Larger market cap cryptocurrencies are much more stable price-wise. The overall space, though, still remains incredibly volatile. But for me, I'm mostly just looking at the fundamentals behind a project and who the hell is using it that actually matters. That's what my biggest question. Who's using it that matters? Who's using the token? Not just the consultation, not just a friendly partnership, not a fireside chat. No. How are we using the token? She will be doing TikTok dances soon for token tips. Peaky. These guys are getting desperate, and I'm going to tell you right now that Elizabeth Warren has a whole nother thing coming for her if John Deaton actually runs for senator. He is going to clean her up. They're going to have a little operation there in the great state of Massachusetts to cover that one up. I won't say anything else on that one. I won't speak on that. We'll just be quiet about that, but they're going to have to run one heck of an operation to take down John Deaton. Chef, thank you for showing up in the Twitter space today. I see your comment, and yes, I will share that out. I forgot to share it out earlier today. I will share that out on Twitter for everyone to see, but the document is right here, and it's a press release that was put out in August of 2023. August of last year, Standard Custody and GSR have joined forces to introduce innovative escrow solutions in digital assets. Collaboration aims at reducing counterparty risk and further elevating standards for reliability and efficiency. $100 Dex. I think that many people need to define stablecoin. I don't consider the dollar really that stable. Over a longer time frame, it's not stable at all. The value is being completely destroyed. Even if we take the government's lie, it's being destroyed at 3-4% year over year. I beg to differ. I think it's a lot worse. And that's exactly because if you just look over a time frame of 1 year, and let's just say it's only being destroyed by 5%, well, that's not stability. That's a stable destruction of value. Is that what we're calling a stable coin nowadays, right? Now, in regards to XRP and XLM, you also have the stability of your transaction. When you settle in 3 to 5 seconds, you have a stable transaction that does not expose you to foreign exchange risk. That's important. That's a stable transaction. Different, I guess, than a stable coin. Relatively speaking, I think that when this market matures, we are going to stabilize in price. I think that we'll steadily increase, but we won't have these huge swings up and down. We won't be doing 90% in bear markets and, huge gains in bull markets. With all due respect, Deaton doesn't have the name recognition, political backing, nor the money to unseat Warren. Warren is so disliked by our country that I think that you would be very surprised how quickly John Deaton could grow. Am I going to sit here and say that he has the reach that Warren does now? No, absolutely not. Warren's got a machine behind her. Absolutely. But she's hated around our country. That's just a fact. I'm not saying I'm not saying my opinion about Warren. I think she's a nice gal, and I like her motto, Elizabeth, I got a plan for that Warren. I think that's a good little deal. I'm going to not speak on my opinion of her, but the sentiment that I read across this country is general dissatisfaction with her, not just the people of Massachusetts. So I think that Deaton would be able to, he has nationwide exposure already, but it wouldn't take much to get the story going viral with Deaton against her. That would pick up big time. You have to understand that Deaton's now being respected across the entire digital asset space. Deaton's not just an XRP lawyer. He's being called up to all the biggest shows. He's being called to big conferences for digital assets, and he's being called upon as a leader in the digital asset space already. And we're seeing how powerful the digital asset community is becoming as far as a segment in politics. And we'll help get the word out. You already know that. And especially if imagine that documentary goes viral too. XRP's going crazy. Documentary gets released. John Deaton showing the world, showing millions of people, regulatory capture 101. See, everybody hates Elizabeth Warren and everybody hates the SEC. What do you think happens when John Deaton runs against her and also is able to showcase the SEC's corruption as well? I think that he gets a lot of people behind him. Tom Thumb, I appreciate the 20 spot, my friend. Does anybody remember laughter? Tom, thank you. I appreciate you. We got to remember to keep it lighthearted from time to time. Some of the news does get heavy, doesn't it? But we got green candles printing on the charts, guys. Don't forget. If you guys haven't already, smash that thumbs up if you guys like green candles, because we are printing some right now as we speak. Up here for XRP at a 57 cents. Just saw another little tick down, cooling off a little bit, but we got a run up here today to nearly 58 cents. For Bitcoin stabilizing right here, basically, at 51.7 and up here about 52,000. Right around that 52,000 range. Bitcoin's finding a little bit of stability here. XRP woke up. XRP starting to breathe a little bit. And I'm not going to lie, it made me a little bit uncomfortable that I dropped that video today talking about they let XRP breathe, and then we started to print massive green candles. I was like, oh boy, here we go. Little extra fuel on the fire. We're going to continue to watch this market, though. Getting interesting. XRP catching up. Waking up. Love to see it. Tom, I appreciate that, my good friend. Yeah, we ran up a Twitter space. That was a good one here today. I managed to host a Twitter space for 3 hours, and we managed to keep out any sort of BS, which if you waste any time in the Twitter space, you know how much crap you got to sift through in a Twitter space to get to some valuable content. But we managed to do it for 3 hours. Tony, there you go. That's a great lesson. Yeah, Staple Crew. We love Alan. I got to get Alan back on the show. Yeah. Huge shout to Alan. Huge shout to Alan and huge shout to our community that was telling me to get into Stronghold at under a penny. At a fraction of a penny. And I just, it's kind of cute, kind of interesting, And then I started to look into it, and the fundamentals are pretty solid. I just have a concern about the tokenomics. I'll address this right now since it got brought up. You have to understand, I'm in a position where if I say anything about a project, I'm going to get in trouble either way. It's the position that I'm now in. If I'm bullish, people are upset. If I'm bearish, people are upset. And even if I ask questions, people get upset. Okay. So this is why I don't spend too much time really doing public reviews of coins. I review coins privately when people send me messages, when people on the Discord ask me to review a coin. I always review those privately. And then when I find something interesting that's worth sharing with you guys, when it's a common project that is requested, that's when I'll come publicly. But no matter what I say, I get in trouble because I'm either not bullish enough, I am a paid shill of the project, or if I bring up any questions, I'm spreading FUD. So I have to be very careful and I have to be very straight. Here's the only issue that I have with Stronghold. I'm not familiar with the team behind them as much as I am with Ripple. The team is very incredible, very connected. The partnerships that they have are for real, very serious. And the business that they're building looks to be very legitimate and growing. But I was not able to find an information and a roadmap that laid out a specific plan to distribute the remaining supply of tokens that this original company still holds. That's all I want. Other than that, it's really great. And let's compare apples to apples. With XRP and Ripple, I've been studying this for years, since 2018. And I've been familiar with the team since then. And I've been very comfortable with that. I see Ripple's plan. They have an escrow. They can only get 1 billion XRP per month. What has Ripple been doing with that? As I've highlighted, I think that they've been very responsible. Stronghold maybe is going to do the same thing. Maybe they're going to distribute Stronghold to their merchants, to their partners, to the community in a way that's effective. But I haven't built up the rapport with the team yet to have blind confidence in the project. But I still did make an investment, full disclosure, right? And I like to let you guys know when I make a move, but I still have my questions. I still have just a couple questions, and I think that they're very fair. I'm not trying to FUD out Stronghold, just to be clear. But I just want to see what the plan is. You know, it makes me uncomfortable that the Stronghold Pay company, I guess, from my understanding, I'm still researching this, they're sitting on most of the supply, and they have a task now to distribute it. That's a tough thing to do. You have to build adoption, and in doing so, right, you have to do it in a way that doesn't impact price. The exact same issue that we were talking about with Ripple and XRP. How do you distribute XRP without having an impact on price? Well, Stronghold has to do the same thing. And so I've been listening to interviews by their co-founder, by their team leader, Tammy, and Sean, the co-founder and the CTO. I've been very impressed, very impressed. But I just need to see a little bit more, and I just need to have a couple more of my questions answered in that regard. I understand that they have merchants. I understand that they have a merchant program. I understand that this is a big deal, and they're going to distribute it too. Well, I'd like a little bit more details on that distribution model plan, because, you know, are we talking about you're going to find partners to just say, hey, so-and-so has acquired 10 billion Stronghold. So-and-so has acquired 5 billion Stronghold. And maybe the supply's already eaten up. Maybe it's accounted for. Maybe they're doing pre-allocation contracts like Ripple. I don't know. And that's just the only questions that I have on the Stronghold project. Other than that, what they've done with their partnership with IBM, massive. All the other connections that they have, massive. The utility that they have, I really like it. They're helping businesses make money. I love it. It's not a subjective, oh, is this NFT cool art? Helping businesses make money, that's utility that matters. So in that regard, Stronghold got my investment. I'll keep you guys posted on that. I have some targets that I see that it could go to. Very exciting to watch the price action in the meantime. I'm going to wrap up this session though, guys. It's been an absolute pleasure here tonight as well. If you guys can do me a big favor, just smash that thumbs up, share out our content far and wide. And if you need precious metals, you guys already know the deal. If you need some buffalo heads, if you need some other 1 ounces, I got 10 ounces. We're stacking it up as fast as we can. And I've been showing you guys the data. The smart money, what are they doing? They're selling off equity. The smart money's selling off equity, and they're loading up on precious metals. We just covered how Stanley Druckenmiller, one of the most respected investors in the world, is now buying gold mining stocks. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just showing you what the smart money's doing. There's a rotation underway. And I think that there's a reset underway, and we're talking about a valuation of where these assets aren't going to be trading at the prices that they're trading at today. I'll let you guys let me know in the comments down below where silver's going to go, where gold's going to go, where XRP is going to go. I'm excited to go on the journey with you guys, and I just want to say thank you for stopping by. Had a lot of fun tonight, and everything can be found on my website, zachrector.com. I'll see you guys in the next one. God bless.